The sky above Earth darkened as massive warships descended from the stars. The alien fleet of the Caithar, a race known for their advanced technology and relentless hunger for conquest, arrived with one clear goal: to annihilate humanity. The first wave of attacks came without warning. Huge beams of energy rained down from the sky, turning cities into smoldering ruins. Earth's defenses, once a symbol of human strength, crumbled under the onslaught. The Caithar's weaponry was far more advanced than anything humanity had ever faced. It was a nightmare come to life. In the midst of the destruction, the last remnants of Earth's military tried to fight back. Commander Railstorm, a seasoned veteran, led a small group of soldiers in a desperate battle against the invaders. They fought through the ruins of a once thriving city, dodging alien fire and engaging in close-quarters combat with terrifying, AI-driven robots. The noise of the battle was deafening. Blasts of energy, the crackling of explosions, and the roar of collapsing buildings. Storm's team fought valiantly, but with each passing minute, it became clearer that they were outmatched. The alien machines were faster, stronger, and relentless. Rail, known for his leadership and tactical brilliance, shouted orders over the chaos, guiding his team through the city's crumbling streets. They ducked behind debris, using every bit of cover they could find. One of his soldiers, Bonner, narrowly avoided a blast that would have torn him apart. But Bonner wasn't lucky the second time. An alien drone targeted him, its energy weapon firing a devastating beam that obliterated him in an instant. The loss hit Rail hard. Bonner had been a close friend, but there was no time for grief. The team had to keep fighting, or humanity's last stand would be over. The alien war machines advanced, cutting down any resistance in their path. Rail's team was slowly being pushed back. It seemed like the inevitable end. The Caithar general, a calculating, ruthless being, stood in his command center aboard one of the alien ships. With a cruel smirk, he gave the order to destroy Earth's final military base, the last stronghold of human resistance. His voice was cold and emotionless as he watched the countdown on his screen. The general had no doubt that this would be the final blow that would leave Earth defenseless. As the alien forces prepared to launch their next devastating strike, something unexpected happened. Just as the countdown reached its final seconds, a strange signal cut through the noise of the battle. It was an encrypted message, one that shouldn't have been able to break through the alien jamming systems. The signal was powerful and urgent. It came from a place deep within Earth's military network, a place no one outside a select few even knew existed. The message was simple, yet it held the key to humanity's survival. Project Genesis activated. Super Soldier Unit ready for deployment. The words echoed through Commander Storm's mind. Project Genesis. He had heard whispers of it, but he had never believed it would be more than just a myth. Now, it was clear that this top-secret program was humanity's last hope. Rail's heart raced. The Super Soldier Unit was an elite group of genetically enhanced soldiers, developed in the shadows for the sole purpose of fighting the most advanced threats in the galaxy. This was the weapon they had been waiting for, the weapon that could turn the tide of war. Rail quickly pulled his team together, their morale shattered by the loss of their comrades, but still determined to fight. He had no time to waste. The message was clear. Humanity's best chance at survival was locked away in a secure location, and they had to get to it before the alien forces wiped them out. There was a catch. The location was in the heart of the most dangerous part of the city, now a battlefield littered with the wreckage of alien drones and soldiers. It was a suicide mission, but it was their only shot. Rail issued the order to move out. His soldiers, battered and exhausted, rallied together. They had no illusions about what lay ahead. They were up against an enemy far superior in technology and numbers. Yet there was something about the Super Soldier Unit that gave Rail a sense of hope. These soldiers were not just ordinary humans. They had been enhanced with cutting-edge technology and artificial intelligence, making them faster, stronger, and smarter than any human soldier. The alien forces might have the upper hand in terms of technology, but humanity's ingenuity and determination could still turn the tide. The team set off toward the location of the super soldier unit, weaving through the ruined city, dodging blasts from alien artillery. Every step they took felt like a race against time. The clock was ticking, and they knew that if they didn't make it in time, Earth's last defense would fall. The sound of distant explosions echoed through the air as the alien warships continued their bombardment from above. The battle for Earth was far from over, but Rael knew one thing for certain. Humanity's last hope had just been activated, and he would do everything in his power to make sure it wasn't too late. The closer they got to the super soldier unit's location, the more intense the alien presence became. Alien drones patrolled the streets, searching for any signs of resistance. Rael's team moved silently, using the cover of night and their limited cloaking technology to avoid detection. They had to be careful. If the Scyther general knew they were on their way to activate the super soldier unit, he would stop at nothing to prevent it. As Rael led his team deeper into the heart of the city, the mystery surrounding Project Genesis only deepened. What exactly had been done to these super soldiers? How powerful were they? The answers could mean the difference between humanity's victory and defeat, but there was no turning back now. The fate of Earth rested on their success. The super soldier unit was about to be unleashed, and with it, humanity's last chance for survival. But the questions remained. Would it be enough to stop the alien onslaught? Could a group of enhanced soldiers really challenge an enemy as powerful as the Scyther? Only time would tell, but for the first time in a long while, Commander Railstorm felt a flicker of hope. The suspense hung in the air like a thick fog, and with every passing moment, the tension built. The battle was just beginning, and Rail knew that the fight for Earth's survival would be unlike anything humanity had ever faced. The odds were against them, but humanity had one final weapon: its will to survive. The air was thick with tension as Commander Railstorm and his small team of soldiers made their way to the location where the super soldier unit had been activated. It was the only chance they had left to turn the tide of the war. Each of these soldiers had been genetically enhanced, given abilities far beyond the normal human limit. With their strength, speed, and advanced technology, they were humanity's final hope against the seemingly invincible Scyther aliens. Rael had seen what these soldiers were capable of in brief training sessions, but nothing could prepare him for what was about to come. As the team approached their target, the underground alien command center, they encountered heavy resistance. The Scyther had already begun to fortify the area, knowing that the humans would come. The warships above Earth had sent waves of drones and AI-controlled soldiers to guard the base. The battle was already heating up. With no choice but to continue, Rael gave the signal, and the super soldier unit activated. The soldiers' suits glowed with energy as their cybernetic enhancements kicked in. The AI integrated into their systems hummed to life, boosting their senses and providing real-time battlefield analysis. Their speed and strength were amplified to levels that seemed impossible. Each soldier was a living weapon, a perfect fusion of human will and advanced technology. As they entered the alien base, the atmosphere was thick with a sense of foreboding. The walls were cold and metallic, filled with alien symbols that none of the humans understood. The corridors were dimly lit, making it hard to see the threats that could be lurking ahead. Suddenly, the ground shook as the first wave of alien drones appeared, their mechanical legs clanking against the metal floors. These weren't just any drones. They were designed for close combat, with sharp metallic claws and powerful energy weapons. The super soldier unit moved with precision. Soldier Tessa used her enhanced agility to dodge a blast from a drone's weapon, flipping into the air and landing behind it before slicing through its armor with a plasma blade. Jax, another soldier, relied on his brute strength to smash through drones, using his enhanced cybernetic limbs to send enemies flying across the room with a single punch. Their movements were fast and fluid, a perfect combination of human instincts and mechanical precision. The team fought in perfect unison, their abilities pushing them to their limits as the drones kept coming. But then, the situation took a dangerous turn. From the shadows, a Scythar warlord emerged, towering over the soldiers. This was no ordinary alien soldier. It was a terrifying blend of technology and organic matter, its body reinforced with heavy armor and advanced weaponry. It was the leader of this base's defense, and it had been waiting for them. Its red, glowing eyes locked onto Rail, and for a moment, time seemed to slow. Rail knew that this would be the fight that determined their fate. The warlord's massive sword swung down with terrifying speed, forcing Rail to roll out of the way just in time. He had faced many enemies in his life, but nothing like this. The warlord's sheer size and strength were overwhelming, and for a brief moment, Rail wondered if they could win. The rest of the team tried to help, but the warlord's speed and power were unmatched. It seemed like they were outmatched, and the super soldier unit, despite its enhancements, was struggling to gain ground. Rail's mind raced. He knew they couldn't fight the warlord in the same way they fought the drones. They needed to think differently. The warlord was a brute force, relying on power rather than strategy. Rail looked around, his eyes scanning the environment. In a split second, he had an idea. He signaled to the team, and they instantly adapted to his plan. Tessa moved swiftly, drawing the warlord's attention with a series of rapid attacks. As she dodged and weaved, Jax came in from behind, using his strength to knock over several crates that created a barrier between them and the warlord. The warlord roared in frustration, but in doing so, it gave Rail the opening he needed. Using his eye-assisted reflexes, Rail moved in close, using a plasma pistol to target weak points in the warlord's armor. It wasn't an easy battle. The warlord fought back fiercely, but the super soldier's adaptability and tactical ingenuity began to show through. The warlord's movements were powerful, but they lacked the quick adaptability of the human mind. Rail's experience, combined with the soldier's enhancements, began to tip the scales in their favor. Finally, with a coordinated effort, Rail and Jax managed to land a devastating blow. Rail used his enhanced strength to disarm the warlord, while Jax's powerful cybernetic limbs delivered the finishing strike. The warlord collapsed to the ground with a final guttural roar, its body crumpling like a broken machine. The super soldier unit stood victorious, but the cost of the fight was evident. They were battered and bruised, their suits damaged, but they had won. The battle had been fierce, but it was only the beginning. The alien base was still crawling with enemies, and the mission was far from over. But in that moment, the super soldiers had proven something crucial. Despite the overwhelming power of the Scythar, humanity still had a fighting chance. They were not just a group of soldiers. They were a symbol of resilience, a force to be reckoned with. Rail stood over the fallen warlord, breathing heavily as the rest of his team gathered around. "This is just the beginning," he said, his voice steady but filled with resolve. "We're not giving up. Not now. Not ever." The super soldiers had just begun to show what they were capable of. As they advanced deeper into the alien base, there was a sense of rising hope among them. For the first time in this brutal war, they felt like they were not the underdogs anymore. With their abilities, their strategy, and their determination, they were beginning to turn the tide. The Scythar had underestimated humanity, and now they would pay the price. Rail knew the war was far from over, but the spark of hope had been lit, and as long as they had that, they could keep fighting, no matter the odds. The success of the super soldier unit's mission had sent shockwaves through the Scythar fleet. The aliens had been confident, certain that humanity would crumble before their superior technology and overwhelming force. But now the alien leadership was beginning to realize that they had underestimated the humans. The super soldiers were not just an advanced military force. They were a symbol of humanity's will to survive, and that was something that Scythar couldn't easily defeat. Back aboard their massive flagship, the alien leaders convened in a cold, sterile room. The fleet's AI had been analyzing the battle data, and it had come to a terrifying conclusion. The super soldiers were not just a nuisance, they were an existential threat. This new human resistance was organized, strategic, and capable of facing down enemies that even the alien military had struggled to defeat. The Sci-Fi's once imposing superiority had been shaken, and now the leaders feared what might come next. "These humans are not like others," one of the Sci-Fi generals hissed, his voice filled with contempt, but also fear. "Their soldiers are enhanced with technologies beyond our understanding. They fight with a determination we have never seen." Another alien, the fleet's supreme commander, stood from his seat, a grim expression on his face. "We cannot allow this to continue. We must destroy them before they become a true threat. Deploy the elite task force. Do not leave any survivors." The command was clear. The Sci-Fi would stop at nothing to eliminate humanity's last line of defense. Their elite task force, a deadly group of highly trained warriors, was unleashed. These soldiers were the best of the Sci-Fi, cybernetic beings enhanced with alien technology and weapons designed to outclass any opponent. The task force was not just a military unit. They were the embodiment of the Sci-Fi's fear, sent to crush the human resistance once and for all. Meanwhile, on Earth, Railstorm and the Super Soldier Unit were preparing for their next mission. The victory against the warlord had given humanity a much-needed boost, but they knew the war was far from over. In fact, it was only getting harder. The Sci-Fi would never give up without a fight, and now that the aliens had recognized humanity's potential, they were sure to come back with an even greater force. The team gathered in a secure location, their enhanced bodies glowing with energy as they readied themselves for what was to come. Rail knew the enemy was coming, and he wasn't about to let them take back what humanity had fought so hard for. The soldiers had become more than just a military unit. They had become a symbol of hope for the human race. As the leader of the Super Soldier Unit, Rail felt the weight of that responsibility on his shoulders. "We have to keep moving," Rail said, his voice calm but firm. "The aliens know what we're capable of now." Rail led the way, moving with calculated precision. His mind was constantly analyzing the situation, using the AI integrated into his suit to predict the aliens' next move. Every decision had to be perfect. One mistake, and the task force would be on them in an instant. The chase was thrilling, fast-paced and full of heart-pounding moments, as the super soldiers used their strength and speed to stay one step ahead of the aliens. At one point, Rail and his team found themselves cornered, with nowhere to run. The Sci-Fi task force was closing in from all sides. Rail's mind raced for a solution. Then he spotted a nearby transport vehicle, a relic from the old days of war. With a swift motion, he ordered his team to hijack it. The vehicle roared to life, and with the Sci-Fi hot on their heels, the super soldiers tore through the streets, narrowly avoiding blasts from the alien weapons. The chase was a blur of speed and action, with explosions lighting up the sky behind them. But despite the danger, Rail felt a sense of pride. The super soldiers were proving that they weren't just a force to be reckoned with. They were a force that Sci-Fi should fear. As the soldiers raced through the city, the tension grew. The stakes had never been higher. Could they outrun the elite task force long enough to complete their mission? Could they truly face down such a superior enemy? The audience, like the soldiers, was on the edge of their seat, wondering if the underdogs would succeed against such overwhelming odds. Every move, every moment, seemed to hang in the balance. And as the super soldiers continued their high-speed chase, one thing was clear. Humanity's resistance was far from over. They had made the Sci-Fi fear them. And they would keep fighting, no matter what. The enemy had underestimated them once. Now they would make sure that mistake never happened again. The atmosphere was tense as Railstorm and his team continued to fight back against the alien forces. They had endured countless battles, but each victory brought them closer to their ultimate goal, defeating the Scythar and saving Earth. The team had fought hard, and their super soldier enhancements made them nearly unstoppable. The aliens, once so confident in their superiority, now found themselves under pressure. However, the true test of humanity's resolve was still to come. In the middle of a major battle, the Scythar general, realizing the threat the super soldier unit posed, ordered a devastating attack on their headquarters. The general's intelligence was precise, and the strike came as a brutal surprise. Rail and his team had barely had time to prepare when the alien warships launched a barrage of missiles. Explosions lit up the sky as the building they called home crumbled under the assault. Bonner, one of the most beloved members of the team, had been at the heart of the operation, leading the defense. He was always the one who kept everyone's spirits high, even in the darkest moments. His strength, determination, and humor had made him a friend to all. Bonner had survived many battles, and he had become more than just a soldier to the team. He was family. But in this moment, despite his best efforts to protect his comrades, Bonner didn't make it out. The explosion took him before anyone could react, and he was lost to them in an instant. His death shook the team to their core, leaving them devastated and questioning how they could continue without him. Rail stood among the wreckage, his heart heavy with grief. His best friend, his trusted ally, was gone. The pain of losing Bonner was unbearable. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. But Rail knew that this was not the time to mourn. The team needed him now more than ever. He gathered his emotions, forcing himself to remain strong for the others. Bonner's death could not be in vain. His sacrifice had to fuel their next phase of the fight. Rail stood tall, his voice steady but filled with emotion as he addressed the team. Bonner gave his life for this fight, Rail said, his eyes blazing with determination. He believed in us, in humanity's strength. We will honor his sacrifice by not letting the aliens win. We're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for every person who has ever dreamed of a future. Bonner's spirit is with us, and we will finish this. The soldiers, though deeply shaken, listened intently. They could feel Rail's words ignite a fire within them. They were fighting not just for survival, but for the memory of their fallen comrade, for the future of humanity. It wasn't just another mission now. It was personal. With renewed resolve, the team set out to find out what the Scythar were truly planning. They had heard rumors of a devastating weapon, but now it was clear that the aliens weren't just trying to conquer Earth, they were trying to terraform it, turning it into a world where humanity would no longer have a place. The Scythar intended to reshape Earth to suit their own needs, eliminating any trace of humanity in the process. The revelation hit the soldiers hard. Earth wasn't just under attack, it was being stolen from them. Rail's mind raced as he processed the information. The Scythar's ultimate goal was far worse than they had imagined. If they didn't stop the aliens, Earth's atmosphere would be destroyed, and the planet would become an alien stronghold. This wasn't just about defeating the enemy anymore. It was about saving their world, saving everything they knew and loved. The super soldier unit had to put an end to the Scythar's plan, no matter the cost. The team moved out, the weight of their mission heavier than ever. They had seen the power of the Scythar's weapons before, but nothing had prepared them for the sight that awaited them. As they approached the heart of the alien operation, the soldiers looked up to see the terraforming weapon in full view. It was massive. An enormous energy cannon, towering over the landscape like a giant, sinister monument. The weapon was positioned above the planet's atmosphere, ready to fire at any moment. Its energy readings were off the charts, and Rail could feel the intensity of the situation in the pit of his stomach. The cannon was designed to destroy Earth's atmosphere, causing catastrophic climate changes that would strip away the planet's ability to support life. The Scythar didn't just want to conquer Earth, they wanted to obliterate it. It was a terrifying thought, one that sent a shiver down Rail's spine. But the soldiers couldn't back down now. They had to stop the cannon before it was too late. The alien forces around the weapon were heavily guarded. The super soldier unit would need to use all of their enhanced abilities to infiltrate the area and disable the weapon. They had already taken down countless enemies, but this would be their greatest challenge yet. Rael's mind worked quickly, analyzing the terrain and enemy positions. There was no room for error. They couldn't afford to fail. Tessa, the fastest member of the team, would lead the charge. Her speed and agility made her perfect for this type of mission. She would infiltrate the enemy lines, using her cloaking device to sneak past guards and disable the security systems. Jax, with his immense strength and cybernetic enhancements, would be right behind her, ready to smash through anything that stood in their way. The rest of the team would follow, providing cover and dealing with any threats they encountered. The tension was palpable as they prepared to move out. The air seemed to crackle with energy, as if the planet itself knew what was at stake. Rael knew that this would be the final push. They couldn't afford to make any mistakes. The fate of Earth rested on their shoulders. As the team moved closer to the alien weapon, the weight of the situation hit home. The super soldiers weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting for the future of humanity. With Bonner's sacrifice burning in their hearts, they pressed on, ready to face whatever dangers awaited them. The final assault would not be easy, but it was the only option left. The soldiers knew they were running out of time. The cannon was ready to fire, and if they didn't act quickly, Earth would be lost. With Bonner's memory driving them forward, they charged into the heart of the alien base, knowing that this fight could be their last. The fate of the planet and the survival of humanity hung in the balance. The super soldier unit, now deeply immersed in their mission to stop the alien terraformers, finally breached the heart of the Caithar mothership. As they moved deeper into the enemy's lair, the sense of urgency and determination in their ranks grew. The stakes had never been higher, and every step they took brought them closer to their ultimate goal. The fate of Earth and of all humanity rested on their success. The first obstacle they encountered was a brutal wave of robotic warriors, Caithar's most advanced creations. These machines were almost indestructible, each one equipped with energy shields and rapid-fire weapons. As the super soldiers fought through the alien corridors, their cloaking devices flickering in and out, they were met with non-stop resistance. The air was thick with the sound of clashing metal and the buzz of laser fire. Rael's team used every advantage they had. Tessa zipped through the hallways with blinding speed, disabling the robots with quick, precise movements. Jax, with his immense strength, tore through enemy lines, smashing robots into pieces. But the robots weren't the only threat. The Caithar had also deployed mind-controlled soldiers, humans who had been captured and brainwashed into fighting for the aliens. These soldiers were once allies, but now they were enemies, fighting against their own kind under the influence of alien technology. The visual chaos was overwhelming. Explosions shook the metal walls, sending debris flying in all directions. The super soldiers navigated through the destruction, using their enhanced senses to stay ahead of the explosion blasts and enemy fire. The combat grew even more intense as they entered a zero-gravity zone, the lack of gravity causing the soldiers and their enemies to float and drift as they fought. The super soldiers adjusted quickly, using their agility and strength to perform gravity-defying moves that sent their enemies floating helplessly into space. In the midst of the chaos, Rael led the charge. His mind raced, calculating every move with the precision of the AI embedded in his neural system. He was more than just a soldier now. He was a strategist, a leader who could outthink his opponents as well as outfight them. As they approached the inner chamber of the mothership, Rael could sense that the final confrontation was drawing near. And then it came, the moment they had been waiting for. The Caithar commander, a terrifying being of pure artificial intelligence, appeared. The creature was a towering figure, its body a mixture of advanced technology and alien biology. It was no longer purely a biological being, but a machine mind that calculated everything in real time. The commander's cold, mechanical voice echoed in the room, sending a chill down Rael's spine. "You think you can defeat me?" The commander taunted, its voice devoid of emotion. "I am beyond your human comprehension. Your species is doomed." Rael, standing tall in front of his team, didn't flinch. "Not today, Commander," he said, his voice full of determination. "Today, humanity fights back." The two squared off, the tension thick between them. Rael charged, his fist connecting with the commander's chest, but it barely fazed the AI. The commander countered with a devastating blow, sending Rael crashing into the wall. The force of the impact rattled his body, but Rael shook it off. The AI commander was powerful, faster than anything Rael had ever encountered, but Rael had something the commander lacked: human ingenuity. Rael studied the AI's movements, quickly learning its fighting patterns and weaknesses. While the commander relied on raw power and logic, Rael adapted, using his enhanced mind to outthink it. The battle became a clash of minds and strength. Rael moved with speed and precision, anticipating every move the commander made, turning the tide of the fight. He knew he had only one shot at this. The commander's reliance on logic was both its strength and its flaw. Rael's strategy was simple: make the AI overthink. He faked a move to the left, baiting the commander into calculating the wrong counterattack. When the commander struck, Rael was ready. He used the momentum against it, grabbing the commander's arm and twisting it in an unthinkable way. The AI's logic couldn't process the unpredictability of Rael's move, and the commander faltered for just a second. Rael didn't hesitate. With a powerful, well-placed strike, he drove his fist into the AI's core, the force of the blow shattering the commander's chest plate. Sparks flew, and the commander staggered back, its systems glitching. For a moment, the alien seemed stunned, its logic circuits struggling to process the failure. Rael pushed forward, taking advantage of the opening, and struck again. This time, the commander's mechanical form collapsed, its massive frame falling to the ground with a heavy thud. Rael stood over the commander's defeated body, breathing heavily, his body sore from the intense battle. The rest of the super soldiers were panting, exhausted, but they had won the fight. The commander was down, but Rael knew that this victory wasn't the end. The war was far from over. Just as the team began to celebrate their hard-earned victory, an unexpected turn of events shattered their hopes. Out of nowhere, a hidden faction of humans, aligned with the Sci-Fi, sabotaged their efforts. The betrayal hit like a tidal wave, leaving the super soldiers stunned. The traitors, a group of human mercenaries who had secretly sided with the aliens for power and wealth, activated a self-destruct sequence on the mothership. The timer began to tick down. Rael's heart sank as he realized what was happening. The mission had been compromised, and they had no time to waste. The traitors, hiding among the ranks of the soldiers, had orchestrated the sabotage, ensuring that the alien fleet would not only escape, but be prepared to launch an even stronger counterattack. The super soldiers had to face an overwhelming final assault, one that threatened to destroy everything they had worked for. "Get to the escape pods," Rael shouted, his voice filled with urgency. "We need to get out of here now." The team scrambled to regroup, but the path was blocked. Waves of alien reinforcements flooded the area, their weapons trained on the super soldiers. The traitors had sealed their fate, and the clock was ticking. The escape pods were their only chance to survive. Rael's mind raced. The aliens had expected the super soldiers to fail, but now they had to fight their way out, knowing the final battle was still ahead. The loss of the alien commander was a victory, but it had come at a heavy price. The super soldiers would have to regroup once more and prepare for an assault that was even more dangerous than before. As the countdown to destruction began, Rael led his team through the maze of corridors, his mind focused on the mission ahead. The fate of humanity still hung in the balance, and the final battle was about to begin. The countdown had begun. Time was slipping away, and the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Inside the heart of the alien mothership, the super soldiers were preparing for the most dangerous mission of their lives. They had made their way through the ship, battling enemy after enemy, until they finally reached the core of the mothership, where they planted the explosives that would destroy the alien fleet. But there was a catch. These explosives weren't just set to take out the fleet. They would also destroy the mothership itself and everyone inside it. The destruction was inevitable, and the soldiers knew that they would not be leaving the ship alive. Rail stood in the command center, his mind racing. He could feel the weight of the decision pressing on his chest. The super soldiers had already fought and sacrificed so much. Now they were on the edge of victory, but the cost was unimaginable. Rail looked at his team, Tessa, Jax, and the others. They had been through so much together, and yet in this moment there was no guarantee of survival. The mission had to succeed, but the personal cost was too high. Tessa, Jax, Rail spoke, his voice steady but filled with sorrow. "We've done all we can. Now it's time for you to go." Tessa shook her head, disbelief written across her face. "We're not leaving you behind, Rail. We fought together. We'll fight together until the end." Rail's eyes softened, and he placed a hand on her shoulder. "This is the only way. If we don't destroy the mothership, the aliens will finish what they started. We'll lose everything. I won't let that happen." Jack stepped forward, his voice gruff. "You know we're not abandoning you, Rail. We fight until the last breath. We're in this together." Rail looked at his team, their faces filled with resolve. He could see their courage, but he also knew they were not ready to accept what needed to be done. The decision had already been made. Rail couldn't let them die with him. The mission had been their shared responsibility, but the end would come down to one last act of heroism. He looked at the countdown timer ticking down. Only minutes remained. "We've come this far," Rail said, his voice firm but with a hint of emotion. "Now it's time for the sacrifice. I'm staying behind to make sure the mission succeeds. You need to get out of here. Now." There was a brief silence as the weight of Rail's words settled in. The others stared at him, not wanting to accept the truth, but understanding the gravity of the situation. Tessa's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded in silent acceptance. Rail turned to the rest of the team. "You've all given everything. Now it's my turn. Go, fight for Earth. Fight for humanity." Without another word, Rail activated the final sequence on the explosives, setting them to trigger the destruction of the mothership. The team had no choice but to follow his orders, knowing they could not delay any longer. The escape pods were ready, and the remaining soldiers had to escape the mothership while Rail stayed behind to ensure the destruction of the alien fleet. As the team made their way to the escape pods, they fought off waves of alien soldiers, buying Rail the time he needed to carry out his plan. The soldiers' enhanced abilities were tested to their limits, each one of them fighting with everything they had. Tessa's speed and agility allowed her to outmaneuver the alien forces, while Jax's strength and brute force cleared the path for the others. But the odds were overwhelming, and the team knew they couldn't afford to waste any time. The final battle inside the mothership was a chaotic whirlwind of laser fire, explosions, and hand-to-hand combat. The super soldiers held their ground, fighting with the heart of warriors who had nothing left to lose. They fought to give Rail the time he needed to complete his mission and to ensure that the alien fleet would be destroyed. The clock was ticking, the tension building as the team pushed forward. But despite their best efforts, Rail knew the sacrifice was inevitable. He watched as his team made their way to the escape pods, knowing they would survive, but at the cost of his own life. As Tessa turned to give him one last look, Rail gave her a small nod. It was their silent farewell, one that carried more weight than words ever could. With a final, heart-wrenching glance at his team, Rail turned back to the explosives. He knew what he had to do. The countdown continued. There was no turning back now. As the last of his team made it to the escape pods, Rail activated the final sequence of the explosives. The mothership shook violently as the energy cannons began charging for their final, catastrophic blast. Rail stayed behind, watching the destruction unfold. He had given everything for this moment, and now he would make sure that humanity would survive. In the distance, the fleet of alien ships prepared to launch, unaware that their doom was already sealed. The countdown reached its final seconds. The massive energy cannons on the mothership fired, unleashing a brilliant flash of light. But just as the energy blast reached its peak, Rail's final act of sacrifice triggered the explosives, igniting a chain reaction that tore through the mothership and sent the alien fleet into a spectacular destruction. The explosion was massive, filling the sky with blinding light. A shockwave of fire and debris erupted into space, consuming the alien fleet in an inferno of destruction. The visual spectacle was breathtaking. Billions of dollars worth of alien technology reduced to nothing in an instant. The super soldiers, now safely aboard the escape pods, watched the destruction from afar. They had escaped, but they had lost Rail, the man who had led them through the darkest moments of their lives. The explosion of the mothership was a victory for humanity, but it was also a reminder of the price of that victory. As the escape pods drifted into space, the soldiers mourned their leader's sacrifice. They knew that Earth was safe, that humanity had been spared from the alien threat. But Rail's death was a heavy weight on their hearts. His sacrifice would never be forgotten. The war was over, and humanity had won. But it had come at a terrible cost, one that would stay with the super soldiers for the rest of their lives. The smoke of the battlefield cleared, but the cost of victory weighed heavily on the hearts of humanity. Earth was saved, the alien threat vanquished, but the price had been steep. The super soldier unit, the last line of defense against the HFY, stood victorious, but the absence of their commander, Railstorm, left an empty void that could never be filled. Rail's sacrifice had ensured humanity's survival, but it also meant that the man who had led them through their darkest days would never see the peace he fought for. In the days following the victory, Earth began the slow process of healing. Cities once devastated by the alien invasion slowly started to rebuild. Humanity, having narrowly escaped extinction, found itself united in a way it never had been before. No longer were they divided by borders or differences. They had faced a common enemy, and together, they had overcome it. The alien fleet was no more, its ships reduced to nothing by Rail's final act of bravery. The debris of the mothership floated silently in space, a constant reminder of what had been lost. The super soldier unit was hailed as heroes. Their names were immortalized in history as the saviors of Earth. People spoke of their bravery in the face of impossible odds, their strength, and their unwavering determination. But amidst the celebrations and accolades, there was a solemn truth that no one could ignore: the loss of Rail. He had been the heart and soul of the mission, and without him, the victory felt incomplete. A memorial was erected in honor of Rail's sacrifice. It stood tall in the center of a newly rebuilt city, a statue of Rail holding his weapon high, a symbol of the strength and resilience that humanity had shown. The people of Earth came from all corners of the world to pay their respects. They came to honor not just Rail, but the entire super soldier unit. They came to remember those who had fought and died to protect their future. Tessa, Jax, and the rest of the super soldiers stood silently at the base of the memorial. Their faces were a mix of grief and pride, knowing that the world would never forget what they had done. They had given everything. Some had lost their lives, while others had been forever changed. Rail had been their leader, their brother in arms. And though he was gone, his spirit lived on in each of them. The survivors of the super soldier unit gathered together, each of them taking a moment to reflect on the battle they had fought, the friends they had lost, and the new world they now had to protect. The war had been won, but their mission was far from over. Earth was safe, for now, but there were always new threats lurking on the horizon. The aliens might be gone, but the need for protection would never cease. "We will never let this happen again," Jack said quietly, his voice filled with conviction. He had seen too much, lost too much, to ever allow humanity to fall into darkness again. His fists clenched at his sides, his mind made up. "We're the last line of defense. We'll keep this world safe." Tessa nodded, her eyes focused on the horizon. Rael believed in us. He knew we could do this, and we will. For him. They stood together in silence, each of them carrying their own memories, their own grief. But above all, they shared a new sense of purpose. They were no longer just soldiers. They were protectors of humanity. And that was a role they would take on with honor, no matter the cost. The camera panned out, showing the vast expanse of Earth. The cities were rebuilding. Life was returning to normal. But the scars of the invasion were still fresh. Everywhere you looked, there were reminders of the war. Ruined buildings, alien technology scattered across the planet, and the lingering memory of lives lost. But there was also hope. The survivors of the war had shown that humanity could endure, could rise above the most unimaginable challenges, and emerge victorious. The super soldiers, standing together against the horizon, represented that hope. They were a living testament to human resilience, to the strength that could be found even in the darkest of times. They had fought not just with weapons, but with their hearts. They had faced the impossible and come out on top. And now they would continue to stand guard over Earth, ensuring that humanity would never again face the kind of threat they had just overcome. As the camera pulled further away, the final image of the super soldier unit standing tall against the setting sun filled the screen. Their silhouettes were strong, their posture unwavering, a symbol of the unbreakable spirit of humankind. The battle was over, but the legacy of their victory would endure forever. Humanity had triumphed, and their resilience would be the foundation for a brighter future. In the end, it was not just the strength of the super soldiers that had won the war. It was the power of the human spirit. Against an alien force that seemed unbeatable, humanity had shown that no matter how advanced the enemy, no matter the odds, they would never give up. They would always fight for their survival, for their future, and for the people they loved. And so, as the survivors of the super soldier unit turned and walked away from the memorial, ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring, one thing was certain: the legacy of their victory, the triumph of humanity, would never be forgotten. Earth was safe, and the super soldiers would always stand ready to protect it, no matter what came next.